Now, as I mentioned before the break, one of the important poll closings that we are heading toward about a quarter hour from now, at the top of the hour, 9 o'clock Eastern time, is the great state of Arizona. And one of the things we've been watching over the course of the day is the far right and the Trumpist wing of the Republican Party focusing on Arizona in, I guess, this year's iteration of election denialism stuff. Joining us now is Ben Collins. He's a senior reporter for NBC News. He focuses on the internet and disinformation and extremism. And Ben, I know you've been keeping an eye on this today.
Yeah, look, in the Bannon sphere, in the Steve Bannon world, this is the big thing in Arizona. He has had pretty much every person in that coterie on his program tonight. The MyPillow guy, Mike Lindell, Roger Stone, Charlie Kirk, who runs Turning Point USA. And they're all pointing specifically to Arizona. They say there's problems with all of these things. All day long, they've been pushing this since really early in the morning. They've said, they had videos of people saying that a specific tabulation box is really a shredder and all these things. Really wild stuff. But it is appearing over the course of the night, this is sort of their firewall. This is where, if they lose a series of states, this might be their last real place to cause some chaos, cause some mayhem. And they're doing that with lots of weird viral tricks on the internet right now on Steve Bannon's show.
Ben, disinformation and misinformation are two different things, right? Yep. One is when you just get something wrong, and the other one is when you deliberately get something wrong or, in fact, create something out of whole cloth and try to sell it as if it's true. Are we seeing wholly invented fake news, wholly invented false stories about Arizona, or are they just spinning and distorting what amount to small kind of normal distortions in the electoral process over the course of the day into something that seems more nefarious than it is?
Yeah, it's the second thing, Rachel. With this stuff, they take a grain of truth, which is, there were a couple of vote tabulation boxes that were malfunctioning, and they took a video of a person announcing this to the group. They said, basically, just wait in line or put it in that third box, and we'll deal with it later. They will be adjudicated. They will be hand counted at the end of the day. But that wasn't enough for some people on the internet who had to then wildly hypothesize about what was really going on with the ballots, because that's what goes on in this space. You got to remember the backdrop of this, Rachel, which is that there is this very big documentary in the pro-Trump internet called, by the way, we should put documentary in quotes there. There is a film called 2000 Mules by Dinesh D'Souza that alleges very ridiculously that there are what he calls mules, people dropping off things into ballot boxes and all of these things, fake votes all throughout the country. It's been widely and continuously discredited and debunked. A good one from this weekend was from John Oliver, if you want to watch one of those. That is really taken hold in an underground way on the pro-Trump internet, and people have just been looking around for really anything funny that happened or any small thing that could be blown out of proportion. And that's exactly what's happening in Arizona.
Let me ask you one last question on this, Ben, and that is when we talk about stuff like this being focused on Arizona, because of our experience there in 2020 and what we saw outside some of the big counting sites in Arizona, one of the things we have to think about is the fact that Arizona is an open carry state, and a lot of the far right in Arizona has been willing to use their open carry privilege as a form of political intimidation. So I have to ask if any of the discussions that you're seeing about this, as you describe in the Bannon sphere and the sort of Trump wing of the internet and that part of social media, whether they are asking for in real life protests, whether they're asking for people to go physically go to a place or do a thing, given what they are hypothesizing and distorting about Arizona's election tonight.
Yeah, Rachel, in the weeks before this, they were literally surrounding ballot drop boxes at the request of people associated with Steve Bannon, people going on his show saying that we need mule watchers. We need people to watch these ballot drop boxes. And some people did show up in fatigues outside of these ballot drop boxes as an effort to shoo away people or intimidate people outside of polls. So that was that effort. And now, Steve Bannon is not, he knows where the line is. These people consistently know what's legal and what's not legal to say in the moment. But if you go to the extremist forums, places like the Donald, where January 6th was planned on the internet, they talk about how voting doesn't even matter. You should just, this is going to come down to weapons anyway. So that is the worry, is that once those people in those spaces get the message from Steve Bannon that something is afoot, they can take it from there.
Ben Collins, NBC News senior reporter on the disinformation and extremism beat. Ben, invaluable. And please, basically keep my number. As you're watching this stuff happens and you think there's things that we need to be letting people know about as we're watching election results come in, interrupt us. Let us know what's happening. What you're doing tonight is really important.
Rachel,
thank you.